Ryan's office revenge. I knew the meeting was going to be bad when I saw the cheap bagels. Stale everything bagels and rock-hard blueberry ones that looked like they'd been sitting out since last quarter, paired with cream cheese that had definitely seen better days. But the real warning sign wasn't the sad breakfast spread. It was the smell in the room. That cocktail of fear and desperation I'd come to recognize after 18 years in corporate IT. I'm Russell Palmer, 47 years old, and I've been keeping Apex Defense Solutions running since most of these people were in diapers. I stood in the back of the main conference room, leaning against the doorframe like I always do. Old habits from my single dad days. Always position yourself where you can see the exits and keep one eye on everything happening. See, I've been doing this alone for 8 years now. My ex-wife Jennifer decided she needed to find herself when the kids were 8 and 12. Found herself in Florida with a real estate agent named Chad, left me with 2 kids, a mortgage, and the realization that working nights and weekends wasn't just about dedication anymore. It was about survival. My daughter Sarah's a sophomore at State now, studying mechanical engineering. Makes me proud every time I write that $22,000 tuition check, even if it means I'm driving a 2008 F-150 while her classmates' dads roll up in BMWs. Sarah gets it, though. Called me last week to say thanks for teaching her that things worth having are worth working for. My son Jake's 16, plays varsity baseball, and thinks his old man's pretty smart for a guy who fixes computers. We had a talk just last night about his algebra teacher who keeps assigning group projects where half the kids don't pull their weight. "Dad," he said, "how do you deal with people who don't do their jobs?" I told him what my father told me. "Son, you can't control what others do, but you control what you do. Do it right, document everything, and let the chips fall. I don't do synergy meetings. Don't do buzzword bingo. And I sure as hell don't do whatever circus was about to start at the front of the room. I do defense systems security. Specifically, I manage the intersection where Apex's commercial networks touch classified military communications. It's the kind of work where good enough gets people killed. Enter Bryce Hoffman, our new VP of Technology. Bryce is what happens when a LinkedIn profile gains consciousness and buys a Tesla Model S. He's 32, has teeth white enough to blind a pilot, and speaks exclusively in corporate nonsense. He'd been here 6 weeks and had already used the phrase digital transformation 38 times. Yes, I counted. My buddy Danny Walsh in junior admin started a tally sheet. Danny's a good kid, 24 years old. Reminds me of myself when I started. He actually listens when I explain why we do things a certain way, instead of just nodding and doing whatever's easier. I've been teaching him about network security the same way I learned it, hands-on, methodical, with respect for the consequences. Bryce tapped the microphone, sending feedback through the room that made half the engineering team wince. "Team, rock stars, family," he started, flashing a smile that looked like it came from a dental implant catalog. "We're entering a new era, an era of cloud-first, AI-driven, paradigm-shifting innovation." I checked my watch. 9:04 a.m. I had 6 minutes before I needed to run the daily security sweep on the classified terminals, the ones that keep our defense contracts running and my pension fund growing. 3 years until I can retire with full benefits, if these idiots don't burn the place down first. To get there, Bryce continued, his voice dropping to that fake, serious tone executives use when they're about to destroy lives, we need to trim the legacy weight. We need to shed the anchor that's keeping us from sailing into the future. The room went quiet. You could hear the HVAC humming and the distinct sound of someone's stomach dropping. I caught Lisa Brooks's eye across the room. Lisa runs accounting, been here 12 years, knows where all the bodies are buried. She looked sick. "Russell," Bryce said, pointing finger guns at me. "Actual finger guns in a layoff meeting. You're a legend here, buddy." "Really?" But your role? It's redundant. We're moving everything to automated cloud infrastructure managed by our partners at TechFlow Solutions. The on-premise hardware is dinosaur technology. Today's your last day. The air left the room. People turned to look at me like I was a car accident. I saw pity in the eyes of the older techs, the ones who knew that dinosaur tech was actually hardened, air-gapped servers mandated by the Department of Defense for handling classified communications. The same systems that kept enemy hackers out of military supply chains and protected convoy routes where American soldiers drove every day. I thought about Jake asking me how to deal with people who don't do their jobs. I thought about the conversation I'd have with him tonight, explaining why his dad got fired for doing his job too well. I didn't blink, didn't argue. I just felt that cold clarity wash over me, the same feeling I get when I spot a security breach in the logs, a problem that needed isolating and fixing. Is that right? I asked, keeping my voice flat. It is, Bryce smirked, clearly enjoying the power trip. HR has your severance packet. Security will escort you out. Oh, and Russell, leave the company laptop on the table. Asset retention policy. I looked down at the laptop in my hand. It wasn't a regular Dell workstation. It was a matte black unit with reinforced ports and a biometric scanner that required both fingerprint and retinal authentication. One of 3 classified audit terminals on loan from the Department of Defense. And Bryce wanted to give it to an intern. Now here's where most people would lose it. They'd shout about their years of service, the weekends spent fixing critical systems, the holidays missed keeping everything from falling apart. I almost did. But then I remembered what I told Jake about people not doing their jobs. You control what you do, document everything, and let the chips fall. Bryce, I said, stepping forward. You sure about that laptop? This isn't standard equipment. Company property, Russell, he snapped, his smile fading into annoyance. Leave it. We'll wipe it and give it to one of the interns. Give classified defense infrastructure to an intern named Brandon so he could make TikToks on lunch break. The absurdity almost made me laugh. This was like handing the keys to a nuclear submarine to a kid who'd just gotten his learner's permit. I walked to the table and set the laptop down gently. Okay, I said. It's yours, Bryce. I turned to leave, but Danny Walsh caught my eye. The kid looked like someone had punched him in the gut. We'd been working on a security protocol update together, something that would have taken him months to figure out on his own. Now he was going to be thrown to the wolves with no backup. Badge 2, Bryce called out. I unclipped my badge, the one with the special holographic stripe that grants access to the skiff in the basement, and tossed it next to the laptop. That badge took me 6 months of background investigation to get. They interviewed my high school math teacher, for crying out loud. Good luck with the cloud transformation, I said, walking toward the exit. We make our own luck, Bryce replied, already turning back to address his terrified audience. I walked out of that conference room, down the hallway lined with motivational posters about synergy and hustle, and into the elevator. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I was in diagnostic mode, the same headspace I go into when the intrusion detection system starts screaming at 3 a.m. Because here's what Bryce didn't know. That laptop isn't just a computer, it's federal infrastructure on loan to our company. It's tracked, monitored, and has a classification sticker on the bottom that he didn't bother reading. It's connected to systems that monitor troop movements, supply convoys, and intelligence gathering operations. The kind of systems where a security breach doesn't just mean lost money, it means body bags. As the elevator doors closed, I reached into my pocket and felt my personal encryption key. A small USB drive I'm legally required to carry per my security clearance. Without me and that key, the laptop wasn't just a brick. It was a time bomb, and Bryce had just decided to sit on it. I sat in my truck for a while, that 2008 F-150 that runs like the day I bought it, because I actually maintained things properly. Through the glass walls, I could see Bryce gesturing wildly at his remaining staff, probably explaining how much money he just saved by getting rid of the legacy weight. "Moron," I muttered, starting the engine. I didn't go straight home. Old habit from my divorce days. When you're dealing with a crisis, you don't make decisions while the adrenaline's still flowing. I drove to Pete's Diner across town, the same place I used to take Jake after his Little League games. Ordered coffee and apple pie, sat in a corner booth, and thought. The waitress, an older woman named Dolores, who'd been working there since the Clinton administration, refilled my cup without being asked. "Rough day, honey?" "Job troubles," I said. "Their loss," she replied, and somehow that made me feel better than any corporate exit interview ever could. I sat there for 2 hours, watching the lunch crowd come and go. Construction workers, office people, retirees killing time. Real people doing real work, not chasing buzzwords and paradigm shifts. By the time I left, I had a plan. My home office is what happens when an IT professional builds something for himself, instead of dealing with corporate purchasing committees. Clean cable management, redundant power systems, and monitoring. Equipment that would make the NSA jealous. It's the opposite of the chaotic open plan nightmare I'd just left behind. I built it in the basement after the divorce, partly because it was quiet, mostly because it gave me something to focus on besides my failed marriage. Jake helped me run the network cables when he was 10, learning about structured wiring while most kids his age were playing video games. "Why does everything have to be so neat, Dad?" he'd asked. "Because when something breaks at 2 a.m., you don't want to waste time figuring out which cable goes where," I'd told him. I sat down at my workstation and opened my personal laptop. First thing I did was check my clearance status on the Federal Personnel Portal. Still active. Until the paperwork clears in Washington, which takes weeks, I'm still the registered custodian for those 3 audit terminals. Next, I logged into the Asset Monitoring System. It's an ugly website that looks like it was designed during the Bush administration, the first one. But it has more security layers than Fort Knox. 2-factor authentication, hardware token, and a password that changes every 30 days. Access granted. I navigated to the equipment tracking page. There they were, Units 1, 2, and 3. The first 2 showed offline, secure, which was normal for equipment locked in our server room vault. Unit 3 showed active. My stomach dropped. Unit 3 was the laptop I'd left on Bryce's table. It should have automatically locked down within 10 minutes of losing contact with my biometric signature. The fact that it was still showing active meant someone was trying to use it. I opened the real-time monitoring dashboard and watched the activity logs populate. 11:42 a.m. Hard reset initiated. 11:45 a.m. BIOS authentication failed. 11:46 a.m. BIOS authentication failed. 11:47 a.m. BIOS authentication failed. 11:50 a.m. Admin override attempted. User B. Hoffman, admin. Bryce was trying to brute force a federally encrypted machine, using his corporate admin credentials. It was like trying to open a bank vault with a library card, except the bank was the Pentagon, and the vault contained information that could get American soldiers killed. Every failed attempt was being logged not just locally, but on mirrored servers at 3 different federal facilities. He was painting a bigger and brighter target on himself with every wrong password. I leaned back in my chair, the same Herman Miller I'd bought used when Jennifer left. The one purchase I'd made for myself in 8 years of putting the kids first. "Bryce," I said to the empty room, "you have no idea what you just stepped in." Then the log turned red. 12:05 p.m. Network intrusion detected. Device connected to public internet. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. He hadn't just tried to log in. He'd plugged the classified terminal into the office Wi-Fi. These machines are air-gapped by federal mandate. They never, ever touch the public web. It's like the first commandment of classified systems: thou shalt not connect to the internet. Bryce had just exposed military intelligence infrastructure to every hacker, foreign government, and script kiddie on the planet. I had a choice. I could call him right now, get him on the line, scream at him to unplug it before the automated security sweepers found it. I could save his career, save the company the massive fines they were about to face, save everyone's jobs. My phone was in my hand. I'd started dialing the main office number before I even realized it. Thank you for calling Apex Defense Solutions. I hung up. Redundant, I said out loud to my empty basement. If I was redundant, then my warnings were redundant too. Instead, I opened a new email window. Agent Torres has been my federal liaison for 3 years, ever since we landed the classified contracts. He's former Army MP, about my age, and has the same low tolerance for incompetence that comes from years of seeing what happens when people cut corners. Subject: Notice of Employment Termination, Potential Asset. Compromise. Agent Torres, effective 0900. Today, my employment with Apex Defense Solutions was terminated. I was ordered to surrender custody of classified Terminal Unit 3, serial DOF8892 Alpha, to Mr. Bryce Hoffman, VP of Technology, despite verbal warning regarding chain of custody protocols. I am observing unauthorized network activity on the asset beacon. I am no longer on premises and cannot intervene. Please advise. Palmer. I hit send. The beauty of federal bureaucracy is documentation. I'd done my duty. I'd reported the employment change and the asset location. Whatever happened next was 100% on Bryce's head. My phone rang. Unknown number. Northern Virginia area code. I picked it up on the first ring. Palmer. Russell, it's Torres. His voice sounded like he'd been smoking cigarettes and reading classified reports for 20 years. Got your email. We're seeing some unusual telemetry from Unit 3. Yes, sir. Device was confiscated this morning despite my objections about proper custody protocols. And this Hoffman character, he has clearance for classified systems? No, sir. He's a civilian contractor employee with standard commercial access only. I heard rapid typing on Torres's end, probably pulling up Bryce's background check. Palmer, I'm looking at his file. MBA from Wharton, 6 years at various tech startups, no military background, no prior security clearance. He shouldn't be able to see this equipment, much less operate it. That was my assessment, sir. More typing. We're detecting file uploads, personal documents mixed with what appears to be a sales presentation. Is he planning to demonstrate this hardware? Big presentation tomorrow. Lockheed Martin executives. He wants to show them our proprietary defense technology. The silence on Torres's end stretched long enough that I wondered if the call had dropped. Agent Torres? I'm here. Russell, this is moving into espionage territory. Protocol requires immediate asset recovery and device destruction. Sir, I said carefully. If you brick it now, he'll claim equipment failure. But if you document his actions during an active demonstration, you're talking about letting him commit federal crimes to build a stronger case. I'm talking about the difference between incompetence and intent. Right now you have a VP who made a mistake. Tomorrow you'll have someone who knowingly presented classified systems to unauthorized personnel. Another long pause. What time is this meeting? 2 p.m. Tomorrow. Conference Room B. Full dog and pony show for potential defense contracts. Russell, I'm reactivating your consulting status effective immediately. Temporary clearance override approved. You need to monitor this asset and ensure no actual classified data leaves the building. Can you do that remotely? I built the monitoring systems, sir. I can track every keystroke, every file transfer, every network packet. Good. And Russell, we'll need an eyewitness on site when we intervene. Sir, I'm fired. They won't let me in the building. They will tomorrow. We'll make sure of it. The line went dead. I refreshed the monitoring page. The violations were piling up. 12:18 p.m. Directory browsing detected. 12:22 p.m. Unauthorized file upload. Bryce, Pitch, Lockheed, Martin. Final. PTX, 12:25 p.m. System registry modification attempted. 12:28 p.m. External storage device detected. He was treating a classified defense terminal like his personal laptop, uploading PowerPoint presentations, and who knows what else. Each action triggered another federal law, another potential charge. I opened a new document and started typing a detailed log. Not just the technical data, that was already being recorded automatically, but context. The organizational chart showing Bryce's authority to fire me. The email chain where I'd warned about proper asset handling. The meeting minutes where I'd explained the classification, requirements. At 3 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Danny Walsh. Mr. P, they got me setting up projectors for tomorrow's big meeting. Boss is using that weird laptop you left. Says it's the only computer that still works. Everything else crashed after you left. I almost laughed. The irony was perfect. The corporate network I'd supposedly sabotaged was actually working exactly as designed. When the senior admin doesn't approve the morning authentication cycle, the security systems assume hostile takeover and lock everything down. It's a feature, not a bug. But the classified terminal worked fine because it wasn't connected to our corporate network. It ran on its own hardened government infrastructure, which meant Bryce was fleeing the burning building and hiding inside a bomb. I texted back, "Stay away from conference room B tomorrow afternoon. Take a long lunch." Why? What's going on? Trust me, kid. Just be somewhere else. At 4 p.m., Lisa Brooks called. She was whispering, probably hiding in the supply closet. "Russell, this place is falling apart. Half the systems are down, the phones are going to voicemail, and Bryce is freaking out about tomorrow's presentation. How's he handling the stress? He's been locked in the conference room all afternoon, working on that black laptop. Says it's some kind of secure prototype that runs independently. Russell, I don't know what you did, but I didn't do anything, Lisa. I just wasn't there to hold his hand through the morning security protocols. The trap was set. Now I just had to watch him walk into it." By 9 a.m. the next morning, Apex Defense Solutions was effectively on fire. Not literally, but close enough. I sat at my kitchen table drinking real coffee, not office swill, watching the help desk tickets flood in through my tablet. The dashboard looked like a Christmas tree having a seizure. Ticket number 847. CEO cannot access email, ticket 848. Payroll system down, ticket 849. Urgent. All network drives offline. Ticket number 850. Why are the printers printing hieroglyphics? The authentication servers needed manual approval every morning at 8 a.m. That's me. I wasn't there to click approve, so the security systems assumed the building had been seized by terrorists and went into full lockdown mode. Even the badge readers stopped working because I'd routed them through the same authentication server. My little design quirk. At 10:30, Danny texted, "Mr. P, it's chaos here. Nothing works except that black laptop. Boss says you planted a logic bomb. He's threatening to sue you." I texted back, "Logic bomb? I just didn't show up to babysit the servers. Tell me about the laptop. He's been on it all morning. Says it's the only stable system in the building. Has his presentation all loaded up, practicing for the Lockheed guys." Perfect. The only reason the classified terminal worked was because it wasn't connected to the corporate network I'd supposedly sabotaged. Bryce was hiding from his burning kingdom inside a federal crime scene. At 1:15 p.m., I pulled into the Apex parking lot. 2 black Suburbans sat at the curb like patient predators. Government plates, tinted windows, and that subtle "we're not hiding because we don't need to" vibe that federal law enforcement does so well. Agent Torres rolled down his window. He looked exactly like he sounded. Gray buzz cut, tired eyes, and a suit that had seen better decades but commanded respect anyway. "Palmer, get in." I climbed into the back seat. It smelled like leather and consequences. "Status?" Torres asked. "Conference room B. He's got the laptop connected to the projector. Presentation loaded. Lockheed team arrives in 30 minutes. Torres shook his head. "We've been monitoring the audio feed through the laptop's microphone. He spent 20 minutes this morning explaining to his assistant how to cover the classification markings with Intel stickers. You recorded that? Every word. Just peel off these government labels and put the computer stickers over them. These defense contractors are old school. They just want to see brand names they recognize." Agent Martinez, Torres's partner, looked up from her tablet. "We've documented 127 separate violations of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, 43 violations of the Espionage Act, and 1 count of destruction of federal property markings." "What's the play?" I asked. "We go in now. Before civilians see classified hardware, we secure the asset, secure the subject, and clean up this mess." We walked through the lobby like a small army. The receptionist, Kelly, saw me flanked by federal agents and went pale. She probably thought I was getting arrested. "Hi, Kelly," I said pleasantly. "Just here to pick up my laptop." Torres flashed his credentials. "Federal business, ma'am." The office was still in chaos. People stood around in groups, complaining about blank screens and error messages. As we passed, conversations died. Heads turned. A wave of silence followed us like the wake behind a boat. I caught sight of Danny across the room. His eyes went wide when he saw the badges. I gave him the slightest nod. "Everything's going to be okay, kid." We reached conference room B. Through the glass walls, I could see Bryce practicing his pitch. He'd dimmed the lights for dramatic effect, wearing his best suit, laser pointer in hand like he was conducting a symphony. He was gesturing at the projection screen, which showed a slide titled Apex Defense, Next Generation Security Solutions. Below it, in smaller text, Proprietary Technology Developed by Bryce Hoffman. Torres looked at me. "After you." I pushed open the doors. Bryce spun around, squinting against the hallway light. "Russell? What the hell are you doing here?" "Security!" Then he saw the shapes behind me. "Who are these people?" Torres stepped into the room and hit the light switch. The fluorescence flickered on, washing out Bryce's mood lighting and revealing the sweat stains under his arms. "Mr. Hoffman? Special Agent Torres, Department of Defense Inspector General's Office." He showed his badge. "We need to discuss that laptop." Bryce's face went through about 6 different expressions before settling on panicked confusion. "Laptop? This is company equipment. I'm the VP here. You can't just—" "Actually, we can," Torres said, walking around the table. "That device is federal property on loan to your company. Serial number DF8892 Alpha, classified at the TS-SCI level. That's impossible. This is just a regular laptop." "Look." Bryce pointed to the Intel sticker on the bottom. "Standard consumer hardware." Agent Martinez stepped forward with tweezers. "May I?" She peeled back the Intel sticker with surgical precision. Underneath was a metal plate riveted to the chassis. "Property of US Government. Department of Defense. Classified System. TS-SCI clearance. Required unauthorized access. Punishable by 20 years imprisonment." The silence was deafening. Bryce stared at the plate like it was a venomous snake. That wasn't there before. Russell planted that. He's framing me. Mr. Hoffman, Torres said, this plate is original equipment, installed during manufacture. We also have digital logs of you accessing classified systems without authorization, connecting them to public networks, and tampering with federal property markings. Torres pulled out handcuffs. Bryce Hoffman, you're under arrest for violations of the Espionage Act. They let him out in cuffs, past his terrified staff, through the lobby where Kelly filmed it on her phone, and into the back of a federal vehicle. As they drove away, I stood in the parking lot thinking about what I'd tell Jake tonight. 6 months later, I'm working 3 days a week as a federal security consultant. I make more money than I ever did at Apex. I'm home when Jake finishes baseball practice, and Sarah's tuition is covered without me losing sleep over the checking account balance. Bryce pled guilty to avoid federal prison. He's banned from government work for life and owes $2.8 million in fines. Apex hired me back as an external consultant to rebuild their security compliance. Last week, Jake asked me about standing up to bullies again. This time, I had a better answer. Son, sometimes the best way to deal with people who don't respect you is to let them show everyone exactly who they really are. But you have to be patient, document everything, and be ready when the moment comes. True power isn't about making noise or demanding respect. It's about building something so essential that people only realize its value when it's gone. Experience isn't just time served. It's wisdom earned through countless small battles that young ambition hasn't fought yet.